What is the difference between imagination and visualization, and then how can you apply each of those concepts to your life so you can live a life on your terms? In today's video, we're going to go over the difference on a high level, then we're going to go over the applications and uses, and then we're going to finally go back and talk about the psychological and cognitive differences between the two and how they affect your mind and how your thinking patterns. But the first piece is to look at what is a high-level difference between imagination and visualization. In society, a lot of us, I think they are the same thing, but I do think they serve two different purposes. It can be very powerful when you use them in the right circumstances. So the first piece is imagination. With imagination, I see it serves us in the creative process, whether that's creating products, whether that's creating your team and thinking how your team can look, or maybe a gym example is thinking about different exercises you could do to target a certain muscle. Whatever it is, the purpose is a creative process to think outside the box and thinking how could you create new products to solve new problems, or what team member do you need to solve problems in this department of your company, or whatever the application is for you in business, or what's an exercise that you could use that's maybe out of the box and fun to do. On top of imagination, another piece to imagination has an unlimited scope. You're gonna look at everything, and it doesn't have a streamlined vision like visualization does. For me, it's something as silly as when I sit outside and I look at the shape of the trees, it's me creatively thinking about, oh, what are the shape of those and what do those look like to me? It's a completely unlimited scope that's not even necessarily reality, but that can serve us. On top of the unlimited scope, it's more of a free association thinking. Like I said, there's no convergent, streamlined thinking. It's kind of just all over the place and you let your mind just run. With meditation, typically I like to focus on my breath and I'm thinking in one streamlined vision. But also in meditation, sometimes I just let my mind go and be creative, and I typically do that a lot also when I have my quiet time where I do absolutely nothing but just sit and I disconnect from my devices and I let my mind just kind of run with that free association thinking. Now that's imagination on a high level. Now what's visualization on a high level? Visualization on a high level has an intentional process, typically at looking at a goal or a specific purpose. Maybe you're thinking about your training, whether that's exercise, and you're visualizing yourself actually moving the weight and actually lifting it up and feeling your muscle fibers move. Or maybe you're thinking about yourself working and the actions needed to get the project done that you are going to do, or the speech you have to give at your meeting, whatever it is. Or you also may be thinking with visualization is what does amazing look like in your relationship a year from now, or what does amazing look like in your professional life a year from now. Typically it's very focused with an intentional purpose or goal for you to clarify your skills, behaviors, or objectives that you need to accomplish to get the goal that you want. And I'm not talking about the visualization where, oh, if you just visualize stuff, things will happen and manifest. I think that's complete bullshit. I'm more talking about visualization, how it serves you in the sense of you are where you are right now. You have where you want to go, and you visualize where you want to go. You visualize the ideal outcome, and the idea of that, it gives you all the work in between that you need to do. And that's my idea of visualization. It gives me of what does amazing look like, and it gives me something to strive towards. And it tends to be goal oriented, whether that's increasing your motivation. For me, a darker visualization that I have is that I went to the hospital when I was 17. I was an inpatient for some pretty serious suicidal ideation, but I truly think it's the best thing that ever happened to me because it's motivated for me to now be a person that wants to help others, not be a victim of circumstance, but be a victor of their lives. Because that's, I believe, one of my biggest mindset shifts I had around that time. And something that I tend to visualize is there was an 11-year-old girl that came into the hospital when I was there. And I remember vividly being so angry in that moment. Not angry at her, not angry at the hospital, but angry more at the world. I was like, why is an 11-year-old girl here in an inpatient hospital and she is thinking about killing herself? And it made me very angry in that moment. And now I'm able to rely on that visualization because I truly believe that I was dealt two aces. in life. And so what I do is when times get hard for me in this stuff, when I'm building my business, when I'm building this content, whatever it is, when times get hard for me, I go back and I visualize that 11-year-old girl. And that gives me the fuel necessary to get the things done that I need to get done. So that's what is the difference between imagination and visualization. The second piece is the application and uses of each of these tools. With imagination, one of the first things that jumps out of me as a really good application is the artistic ability. If you work in an industry where you have to continually be artistic and come up with new out-of-the-box ideas, maybe you're creating a book and you want to solve a unique problem within the market, how are you going to use your imagination, your artistic ability to be able to do that? By visualizing what the book would look like, that maybe not be helpful, but being imaginative and going outside the box would be really helpful. Especially, again, if you work in literature, or maybe you're in music, or maybe you're in visuals and you do creative things, this artistic ability and imagination is going to be your best friend. And on top of imagination, it will give you problem solving in terms of problem solving of new ways to solve the problem. If I go back to the example of earlier, if we want to target a certain muscle group when we're lifting, and we're thinking of a new exercise that could maybe target that muscle in a different way. Maybe you want to find a way to target your hamstrings and your quads on an exercise. I know that's super generic answer and squats are the best, but you're just thinking of a new exercise. Maybe you're trying to create a new machine to target those two things at the same time. It can be very helpful to do that, problem solving in new ways outside of the box. Now, on top of that, one final thing with imagination, with application use, is actually storytelling and entertainment. When you creatively think about how can I tell a great story, and you don't fib, but you amplify the details, stuff like that, and that takes a certain amount of imagination to be able to share that with someone in a really good way. Now that moves us to visualization. What are some applications of uses of visualization? Well, one thing that comes to mind right away for me is goal achievement. As I referenced earlier, when I gain some self-doubt, or when I lose some of that motivation, I'm able to go back and think about that 11-year-old girl, and that gives me an ability to achieve my goals because that gives me fuel to do that. And it also will increase your focus, your clarity, your motivation. All of those good things come from visualization because you're thinking of a very specific thing, and that's going to help you focus and clarify on those things. It can also help with your performance, whether you're in sports, whether you're music, or whether you just have to give a speech at a meeting, whatever it is. Visualization can actually help with that performance because you can rehearse your movements. You can rehearse your reactions and your strategies to whatever stimuluses happen. So it can help your performances by actually thinking about, okay, how is this meeting gonna go? You're gonna go through your script, you're gonna go through all that good stuff, and it can help with your performance. One final thing visualization can do is stress management. It can help reduce anxiety and promote visualization by visualizing yourself in a very calm environment. I do that a lot. If I get anxious, sometimes I like to just close my eyes and think about me sitting on a beach or something like that, or just sitting down and breathing and really focusing on lowering my anxiety and increasing my relaxation to get rid of that stimulus that I don't want. So those are some applications and uses. Obviously that's not all of them, but that's some of them that you can use with imagination and visualization. So finally, we look at the psychological and cognitive differences of actually what is happening when you're doing these two things. When you're doing and using imagination, you're typically using divergent thinking. And divergent thinking means that kind of free association thinking. There's no necessarily constraint of how you're going to think about it. There's no streamlined vision of it. It's more just kind of thinking in all directions, and whatever kind of comes up in your mind you allow, and you just allow yourself to think and allow your mind to run. And it allows you to look at many solutions, and that's why it's such a creative outlet, because you're looking at all these things in all these directions, and then you'll be like, oh, I can connect this to this. Whereas with visualization, you're streamlined, and you really don't think about connecting over here with over here. So it allows that divergent thinking. But another cool little thing with imagination is that it can allow for emotional expression. It can be a medium for desires, fears, and emotions. If you start to pay attention what you think about when you're using imaginations, I bet you that's some of the emotions you're feeling, that's some of the desires you have, and it's probably some of the fears you have as well. So it can be very informative for an emotional expression sense from imagination. Now, with moving to a visualization, what are some of those things? It promotes convergent thinking or a specific outcome. Like I said, that streamlined vision of you're thinking about one thing in a direction. You're going one direction, and that convergent thinking can be very helpful to get all the details and strategies that you need to accomplish that. And also, it can promote mental rehearsal, as we talked about earlier. Prepare by practicing the actions within your head, and that mental rehearsal of the streamlined thinking can be very helpful and help you cognitively when it comes to that moment in performing. One final thing with visualization, it helps promote neuroplasticity. And I'd imagine imagination does as well, but I know that visualization can help your neuroplasticity in terms of increasing your learning and performance, because if you simply think about, okay, this is the direction I'm on, this is what amazing looks like, you're gonna think about all the things you need to do, and that'll help learning and performance and help you understand what are the tasks you need to do to get to the outcome that you want. So that's the difference between imagination and visualization. I made this video from my experience, but I made this video also so you guys can live a life on your terms and use these tools. Just add them to your tool belt. Oh, I need to use imagination in this, or I need to use visualization in this instance. If you like this video, please comment what you like and I'll make more of them.